Do it. Let's see if I can add some more images here.
Yeah, can we get Wesley and Data on the front row or anything like that?
That's too soon.
Too soon.
You know how many shut up Wesleys I had to endure in high school?
Oh, didn't even occur to me.
He's my least favorite character.
Okay.
For some reason. Like, really, he's an omnipotent god, basically, now. Like, come on.
Only to a very select number of people, though.
Well, that's Star Trek canon, though. Basically.
And Donovan, you got like a, locutus thing going on with that side light. So that works.
Yeah. The intense green.
You should recreate yourself on a movie poster, like you're just like in a massive fight. Like, have you seen the poster of Mr. Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk? Donovan could put his face in that poster now, or at least his head.
Oh, because of yeah.
Make it seem like you're a brawler.
Someone packed the audience, it looks like.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I brought in a ringer or two, I think.
Right. So Robin's streaming?
Okay.
Over the live feed. There we are.
Have we tested levels and everything like that?
It looks good, yeah. I've been looking at it.
Okay.
Already have some people waiting in the chat, so. All right, I'm ready when you guys are. Okay. What's up, Internet? You're listening to the Making Geeks Podcast, a podcast for makers, families, and geeks. We have a very special show for you tonight. We have a special guest on the air. We have programmer and maker extraordinaire Sean Osteen from TinkeringRocks.
What's up, buddy?
Good evening, everybody.
Come on, Sean.
Hey.
It's good to have you.
Good to have you on the show. Yeah.
Thank you. Been a long time listener, first time videoer, so happy to be here.
We do need to get
Is this really the first time you've been on here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been following you guys either independently or through Making Geeks, excuse me. Well, since your 5-year anniversary, that was as of last week, and so it's kind of fun to finally be around.
We've made contact with so many different people over the years. It's kind of hard to place when some of that contact actually started. Mm-hmm. It's just like when I see your name or TinkeringRocks, like, well, yeah, I've known that guy forever. But I don't think we've ever seen or met face to face. So it's always like behind a logo on most of our parts that, a lot of this usually happens.
Agreed. Yeah. I crossed paths with Wes at the Maker Faire, but everyone else, Donovan and Sean, I've known you guys mostly virtually for the last few years.
How did I not see you at Maker Faire then?
I was in tow with my whole family, so I think as soon as we went around for all the exhibits and stuff like that. So cool. I didn't get a chance to hang around the maker stages too much.
Okay, so meeting maybe like passively, I guess, at least being in the same spot at some time. Then cool
for sure.
Yeah. So what have you guys been up to this week? Actually, you know what? Where are my manners? We should kind of back up a little bit. I feel like after 5 years we should have this down, but we actually don't. Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and TinkeringRocks and what you do?
Sure. So by day, I'm doing programming for one of our national grocery chains, software development, and a little bit of project management. But it's one of those things where, as a developer, you don't have the tangible stuff to show off to friends and family. So I've been out in my garage for as long as I can remember. It goes all the way back to childhood and cobbling stuff together out of the scrap pile, all the way up to today, where I enjoy putting together either Halloween costumes for friends and family, stuff that blinks and does all sorts of nifty things using electronics kits, and then a bit of woodworking here and there whenever I can.
I really like your, I don't know how you'd phrase it, but the bear moving, the California bear flag, but it moves, articulates.
Yeah.
With some gearing on the back. I think it's really cool.
Thank you. That's, I hesitate to call it automata because it was really a simple mechanism.
And that's why I wasn't sure if that's how you would phrase it. Yeah.
I want to, and I want to get there someday. That's one of those things that I've been following for a while. Wes, in his capacity of, hey, this is cool, I'm going to share it with everybody I can think of.
Oh, that's right.
Introduced me to another group on Facebook, and that was one of those rabbit holes that, took up way too much of my time.
Is that the Mechanical Adventures group?
Yes.
Man, yeah. That page is awesome.
Yeah, and so I found myself watching that one and wanting to replicate. And so that Maker Bear, so to describe it on audio, is it's a California state flag, but instead of having the California grizzly just walking on the mountainside, he is hunched up on his workbench doing a crosscut saw with whatever he's working on as a maker. And so instead of saying California Republic, it's just the wording is California Maker. It's about a 3 foot by 4 foot sculpture that's now in the corner of my garage, and it's a decoration. But it's also a sticker, and happy to do a sticker swap with any of the other makers who want to have one.
That is awesome.
Very cool. So everybody listening, I'd take them up on that. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, the automaton stuff has been one of those hobbies that I want to do more. I kind of envision myself being one of those old farts in retirement that's making things move for his grandchildren and stuff like that. In fact, one of the other podcasts out there, Fools with Tools, just did their treasure trade this year, and I tried to do an automata for my subject, and about a week before everything was due, the mechanisms weren't working quite right, and so I finally went in with the epoxy and the hot glue gun and just locked everything in and said, here you go.
Well, listeners of the show are familiar with your subject, if you want to divulge who that is.
Yeah, well, he received the gift late last week. It was Keith Decent, also a maker extraordinaire and massive rug tufter. I think that's a safe thing to say.
He's a tough guy.
He's a tufter guy. And so it was a sculpture of him tufting another rug. In this case, it was his podcast logo, while at the same time eating a burrito, because I'm pretty sure he is ambidextrous and could do that.
So what activity was he like automatization-ing?
Had it worked,
yes,
it would have been right arm moving the tufting gun up and down and left and right, head moving between the burrito and the rug tufting gun, and occasionally the arm with the burrito would come up and he'd try to take a bite.
Oh man,
that was where I was headed, and it's tougher than it seems, and so I had to kind of cut my losses.
How far did you get with it?
I had both arms moving up and down, and his head would periodically move from side to side, but I couldn't get the friction right, and then I ultimately pulled one of the mechanisms. I broke one of the mechanisms inside the torso, and so that was when I decided I needed to kind of lock everything down.
Is he aware of this other form it could have taken?
I mentioned it in the letter, but at that point, I had already glued everything together, so he has to just kind of take it on faith. There's
awesome.
More to it than just...
This would have been super cool, trust me.
Thanks.
Yeah, to think in that way, like I've been following that page for a long time, and just I've been interested in that subject matter for a while, but I understand like when you look at the mechanics, like you're looking at a certain motion, like, oh, that's a cam driving that or what have you, but like just to think in that way for me is like on another level. I can't like process in that space yet. It's sort of like imagining what you would 3D print before you have a 3D printer. You're like, I have no idea what I'm going to 3D print. Then once you get one, you're like, oh, I can understand. I'm not at that point yet, and I want to be, but it's just so
and there's
cool.
a kind of a mental library of mechanisms.
Yeah,
their
exactly.
Coefficients of friction, and even the idea of balance. That was where I got stuck, was just making stuff move fluidly, and that's going to be the finesse part of that hobby for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it'd be kind of cool if there was like a starter kit of gears in like different gear ratios and stuff that you could play with to kind of experiment, almost like you do for like Lego, but even like for little kids to start learning and building that knowledge of motion would be kind of interesting.
I like that idea. In fact, so one of the other things I do is either with Scouts or with our community libraries is some of the tinkering and maker festivals. So the one that we did in 2019 was actually Automata. We based it off of cardboard. So the kids got to make cams for a flapping bird. And that was a neat thing where they got to kind of get the gist of it just by cutting stuff out of cardboard. It was a lot to clean up, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it reminds me of that one YouTube channel that you guys, I'm sure, have at least seen. It's I think it's JK Brickworks on YouTube, and he does Automata with Lego, and he has a guy pushing a push mower, and it has like the grass coming at the front of the mower. The grass is on a treadmill, and as it comes to the mower, it's high, and as it passes under the mower, it like looks like it goes away, and when it comes out the back, it's like mode. It's like two treadmills, but it's hidden. And it's really cool, and the guy's like pushing it, and they have all kinds of different ones that he's done. So if you like either Lego, or Automata, check out JK. I think it's JK Brickworks. He's submitted a lot of different like Lego ideas for their different, crowdsourcing kind of kits and whatnot that they have come up with, and definitely check him out. He's really, really cool. But yeah,
I always keep my notepad when I listen to your show. Doing it and still looking at the camera still takes a little bit of practice.
Well done,
thanks
sir.
for your patience.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So what have you guys been up to this week?
Secret Christmas projects. But I think I can talk about one because he doesn't listen to the show, and if he does, I don't know if him ever listening to it, so I'm just going to risk it because it's kind of cool. So there's, fingers crossed, he's really big into SNL, and if anybody's ever watched SNL, you may or may not know that all their lines are delivered by cue cards, and they've done that since the beginning, and it's always pretty much been the same guy that writes the cue cards by hand with like Sharpies or like permanent markers on big sheets of like stiffened like paper basically, and anytime there's a rewrite at the last minute, he's always like rewriting everything at the last possible minute, and it's just all cue cards. And so the guy, he also does the Seth Meyers show and several other shows. His name is Wally, and he has a thing he's been doing lately where he has a website, and you can request a cue card, like a custom cue card with a message on it, as long as it's not like a copywritten like SNL phrase, like verbatim. You can't do those, obviously, but you can put other things. And it's only like $55, including shipping, which is crazy cheap for something like that. Like, it's so specific and unique. And so I ordered one from my brother-in-law, who is a Methodist pastor in North Carolina, and he's a huge SNL and Conan fan and everything. And so I know exactly that he'll know who this guy is and really appreciate it. But I had him write live from Sunday morning. And then I put his name, since he's, a pastor, and he signed it. And then part of the deal is he'll take a picture of him holding the sign, so it's like proof that he wrote it, And so that's all the thing. So I got the card, and I've been in the process of creating a custom frame over at Ingram Designs, who's a local maker, and his name's David. He's really, really a good woodworker. He has way more power tools in that space than I do, and so we've been making picture frames. He helped me with that one. It's walnut. It's got Purple Heart splines in it, and there's like a carved inlay on the face that I'm working on that's going to have phrases from SNL that go around like a border basically around the thing. So there's like all the different catchphrases and stuff. I've been like Googling everything, like, oh, I love that guy, I love this phrase, or and so I've just been kind of figuring out how to jigsaw them together to make them look cool, and then finish it and put that on. I think that would be pretty neat. So I'm really excited about that. So I've been working on that several days. We've been doing late nights over at his house.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah, thoughtful gift. I'm wondering, can Wally sign his name smaller than the normal text, or is it just one size on the cue card?
It is signed, and it's sort of like on the corner, but yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of doing something with it. And also trying to figure out like if I can include the photo in the gift somehow. And I couldn't really, maybe just put it on the back. I'm not sure how to, like there's not enough like empty space to put the picture overlapping the card. There's just like the words are too big. So maybe I'll just give them the photo just separately. I don't know, but I'm really excited about that. Like,
that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks. What you guys been up to, Donovan?
So I have taken on editing work for 3 different makers in the editing space. I decided I needed to find work, and so I got some references from people of makers in the community who were looking for editors, and so I started sending out feelers with each of those people, and ended up being that I got hired by 1 to be an editor, and then 2, and now 3. So I am editing videos for 3 different makers in the community now, which is interesting because all 3 totally different tone, style, content, all that other kind of stuff. But it is cool because it's work that's at least honing my own skill, I guess. I've kind of realized that I'm probably not going to be as successful as I want to be with my own content. And so if I can work to help make other people's content successful, then maybe I can still get that, sense of fulfillment in this space. So it's been a little overwhelming just because it's right off the bat, and it's trying to find time to break up all the work in between 3 people and still try and do my own content. I just released a video today. And so that had to fit in there somewhere, but it's been fun.
If I remember correctly, Wes and I made that suggestion to you at least a year ago, saying that you'd do well with it because of your past history and skill in editing. So yeah, I hope it works out for you.
I mean, at that time, there wasn't really anybody that was looking for an editor. But now I don't know what it is about like this past month. But just people are looking for editors, looking for
Are you
people.
able to say who you're editing for?
Are you a ghost editor?
Am I a ghost editor?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did have to sign an NDA for one of them, and so I don't think I can mention that one. But
you can't mention the person. I mean, you probably can't mention the video, but can you mention the person?
Probably. So I'm editing for Derek at Square Splinter, friend of the podcast, as we know at the end of the show every week. I'm editing for Jess Crow and John Malecki.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like I said, 3 very different styles, 3 very different like formats in their content, all that kind of stuff. So it's been interesting.
So I'm guessing at Workbench Con in a couple of months, you're going to be walking with at least 2 different entourages?
I think I'm the silent partner in all of those entourages. So.
Maybe not for long. I mean, that can change pretty quickly. And Malecki's channel is huge.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes it's just a matter of trajectory where people get to a certain size of their channel and they have to bring in extra help. So that's probably where you're catching some of these people in their arc.
Yeah. So it was impeccable timing. It was really good timing because it was just what I needed. It's great because I can still be at home, take care of my kids, all that kind of stuff, and so it just kind of worked out.
Nice. Congrats, man.
Thanks. Yeah.
Sean?
I have been doing a lot of resin printing lately. I got a resin printer at work, and I'm holding up the camera right now one of the things I printed, which is a 3D model of a mausoleum from a pack that I bought a while ago that has a bunch of different things in it. And I just have to say, resin printing is magic. I can't believe how good this looks. I've never used a resin printer before. And I don't even think I've held a resin print. So I'm just amazed by the detail and the clarity and how easy it was compared to FDM printing, simply because I loaded up the model, I hit print, and I walked away and didn't look at it until it was time to take it off the build plate. There's an extra step in having to wash and cure, but it really wasn't that big of a deal, and I'm hooked. I just have to make sure that I have enough resin in stock because I'm going through the resin kind of quick. But I probably printed this with a lot thicker walls than I probably should have, because the thing is really kind of beefy. But I'm still dialing in some things. But I love it.
What slicer are you using?
What's it called? Chudu box, or
yeah.
I don't remember how to say it. But it was the one that came with the printer. So I'm printing on a Flashforge Photo 8.9, which that printer I really think is just a label slapped printer. I think it's identical to the Elegoo Saturn, I think, because it is a larger printer. I think it has an almost identical build volume to it. So yeah, if you can't afford a resin printer at home, get your work to buy one for you. And,
yeah.
But I'm still trying to convince my wife to let me buy one at home, because I want one at home too. I have plans to do some like miniature work now. I'm writing a custom D&D campaign for my kids to kind of get them started into that space. And my daughter's very finicky about a character that she portrays, because she doesn't really like violence, kind of like violence, just it kind of depends. And I'm creating a custom character for her that's going to be like a chef, healer, elf, or whatever, just for them. I want to do a photo scan of her using like photogrammetry and stuff, and then bring it in and resin print a miniature of her. I know. For those of you that are not seeing the video feed, Wes somehow just like grew 4 sizes in the video. So.
His eyebrows were very prominent. He was very interested.
Yeah. So I'm spending a lot of time with the resin printer. Still learning a couple things about it, and yeah, and just getting ready for all the holiday madness that's about to happen, since I have my big family holiday party at my house on Saturday and nothing is ready. And we've been doing a ton of orders for Christmas, like right last minute. I think we've done 15 or 20 dog ornaments for people, and we're doing all sorts of other orders. So
nice.
It's like an interesting crunch time for making right now.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. How about you, Sean?
It has been a combination of work and play. So working in the grocery industry this time of year, the warehouses and the stores are in full speed. So anything that has to do with IT, unless you broke something, you don't touch it. So a lot of our projects have wound down for the year, and so I've been able to kind of tie up loose ends there. So as a result, my evenings have been focused largely on making ornaments and craft projects for scouts and for some of my family members. So the Glowforge has been running almost round the clock for the last 6 or 7 days.
So you're another one of those Glowforge users.
I am an OG Glowforger. I had one of the ones that came from the Kickstarter campaign. It's still ticking. I love it. My only gotcha is that I really want to start engraving on things that are round. And so I can't do a tumbler yet. I want to do that on my next laser investment.
Glowforge has to be up for a product line refresh or something at some point. Yeah, because I think more and more people are finding out that, I mean, it's a good machine for what it is, but there's some definite limits that kind of prevent you from kind of scaling in some ways.
It's funny. So today I put out a video of me trying to cut 1,000 snowflakes on my laser cutter, a K40 laser cutter. But it's funny because one thing I noticed people commenting, sending me messages on, is that every time they play my video, a Glowforge ad plays at the beginning. Every single time. You can refresh it, Glowforge. Refresh, Glowforge. Every time. Even though I'm not using a Glowforge is advertising at the front end.
Saturated the hashtags, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Out of that $3,000 price tag, I think $2,000 of that goes to their marketing budget.
Yep. So, Sean, if you, whatever you may not be able to talk about specifics, but I'm interested in what a programmer for a grocery chain looks like. What kind of things do you program?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, are you application development, or are you like database, or?
As of the last few years, it's been primarily integration technologies. So I've been making multiple systems, multiple vendors talk to each other. So I do a lot of work on web APIs and other types of transitions between the two. But I've taken on a role as an enterprise application architect over the last year, and I've gotten back into being able to write some proof of concept applications. And so, some of my last couple of efforts have been little Python UI pieces that are running. And exactly. It's one of those ones where I can knock it out in a weekend, present it as something that would look cool, and then send it off to our offshore team, who ends up rewriting it in Java because that's what they know. I know.
That's interesting. Is it for like internal use, or is it like consumer facing kind of stuff, like web ordering, or I don't know all the.
There is a whole group that does all of our digital stuff. That it's about 50% onshore, 50% offshore, and they're really great at what they do. But no, my stuff never sees the light of non-company day. Yeah.
Is the push for Amazon to have like checkout lists, like processing and stuff? I don't know what you call it, like cashier list checkout, I guess you could call it. Is that like upsetting the industry, or is it not like yet? Or you think it will, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think it has a place that it's going to hit, the convenience market, where Amazon and Whole Foods have some of their quick checkout stuff is definitely a sweet spot. Our particular brands really focus on the family shoppers who are doing their week's worth of goods. And while we have the self-checkout lines, I'm not a fan.
Right.
And I'd still like to talk to a checker at this point.
Gotcha. And then,
what grocery chain did you say which grocery chain it was that you work for?
It's not hidden. I think I've got it on my LinkedIn profiles. But yeah, I work for Albertsons, Safeway, in the Midwest. I think the closest would be Illinois. I don't know if we've got a presence in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. No.
Well,
I mean, there used to be an Albertsons here, but then they went out and now it's a gym. So.
Got it.
They used to have a presence in Oklahoma, but
right, yeah, but we're known differently across the country. Safeway and Vons and Pavilions on the West Coast, Acme and Jewel in the Midwest and in the East Coast.
Yeah, I cannot wait for the day you can just grab the thing. Like, I know Amazon's making it, but I just want to be able to grab all my stuff in the cart and just walk out the door. Like, that's so cool. Like, just the idea of.
Yeah, there's a place. There's one of their facilities in downtown San Francisco. I want to go explore.
That's kind of a strange place for it in San Francisco because people are just walking out with stuff out of stores anyways.
Hey, right. Joke's on you, shoplifter. You accidentally bought that.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure there's some loss there.
So how did you get into that? Is that one of those things that you kind of fell into, or was there always some sort of trajectory because it's family heritage? And
please tell me you started as a bagger and you worked your way up to that.
Well, so I've not been with this company forever, but I was a courtesy clerk bagger for that same company back when I was a teenager. It lasted about 6 months, and I walked off the job. Fortunately, their records don't go back that far, and so I was still able to keep them again. But no, after college, I went to work for some supply chain groups, delivery logistics, and prior to working with Safeway Albertsons, it was last mile delivery for anything from Amazon to some of the furniture manufacturers, where we would actually be the white trucks that show up at your door to have the white glove delivery guys come in and install your couch or your washing machine.
Yeah, my
Where did
first
you go
job.
To college?
Sorry.
Oregon State.
Yeah.
And for political science, no less. So at one point I was going to be a lawyer. I didn't. I discovered the internet and got hooked making web pages for friends, family, and several university departments. And so after that, I pretty much graduated and got in on the first .com bubble, Web 1.0, whatever you want to call it, up until 2000.
I was working during that same time in web, doing the exact same stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So web, Cold Fusion and PHP were, the flavors du jour at the time. Uh-oh. Sean's grabbing something. So no Riley book.
No, I don't have the O'Reilly one, but I still have
For dummies.
this on my shelf for some reason. I don't know why.
I've had that book.
I think I have that book. Yeah.
Yeah. Back when I was trying to teach myself databases.
That was one thing that the feeling is hard to replicate. Like, I don't know if other people have had this, but like, I used to have this thing where I would love to go to Barnes and Noble because I feel like it was like the world of opportunity lay before me, and like whatever I chose, it was like this secret tome of like knowledge that is bequeathed upon me. And I was like, yes, this is it. Then like I'll put the damn thing on the shelf and not look at it ever again. Like I have stuff for like. The type of electronics that I forget what they even call it, like brush bots or something, or the one the really really tiny like circuits that have like capacitors soldered directly to resistors, like the no breadboarding or whatever. I have books on that. I've never done it, but I had books on it. I'm like, this is gonna be awesome. The next 6 months, I don't know. It's just a thing. I like that feeling didn't last long enough for me to get through an entire title, but. I don't know if I'm the only one that felt that way.
I always felt like it was osmosis. Just by having it on the shelf, I was going to absorb some knowledge or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Occasionally under the pillow just to see if you could bump up that absorption.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I always had the same feeling. I'd go into the computer section and it was all the, like when I was heavily into 3D animation, but then also like the web stuff. And it's funny is I don't regret any of those purchases. I did use them from time to time.
So yeah.
But I love the idea of here's like this trove of knowledge here. And I've never quite felt the same way about finding it online.
Yep.
I guess that's like a old school type of mentality now.
I guess. I mean, I still have the books, so the opportunity is still there. It's still waiting for me when the time is right, when I choose to learn, Maya 3.0. But I'm gonna get there.
Well, some stuff can be kind of evergreen, like the brushbot thing.
Yeah.
Those basic components don't go away. But Maya 3.0 is a little bit dated now.
A little bit dated.
By about 15 years.
Yeah. I think most of those I've donated to the library, but the only one that like still lives on, like this is the one book that still has the dog ears on it, all about regular expressions. Oh. It's like the one book that I got from Barnes and Noble that is actually right next to the dictionary. That's that important.
Dang.
What's even worse is I bought a bunch of ebooks like for Python and stuff. I don't look at ebooks. I don't know why I bought them.
Man, so that luster of like going into Barnes and Noble and having the world at your feet, like is like Skillshare, the modern day Barnes and Noble, where the luster of like learning a new thing is there. Of course, it's a service that you have to pay for and not a store that you have to walk into. But
maybe
or is that just a thing of the past?
I haven't found its online equivalent because I'm right there with Sean. Is that I'll try a PDF book and I'll use it for reference for maybe 2 or 3 things, and then it goes into the NAS share and never to be seen again.
The Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
I think I need like a separate computer with a constant screen that I can just kind of like click and select like the ebook to kind of bring up and look at.
Yeah, it just shows like the cover photos. Kind of like instead of rotating through your family photos, it's just showing you the titles you've never looked at. It could do that for Steam too, like all the games I've never played. Like, hey, did you know you bought like Company Heroes 2 and only played it for like 1 day? Like, shame on you. Like, kind of like guilt shaming you into wanting to play the stuff or like read the stuff. That should exist.
Python games for kids on Audible.
Right.
Just have them reading the code and the syntax.
1 0 0 1 0 0. Binary, inaudible. Yeah. So what kind of things do you like to make with your kids? I know you do a lot of stuff with Boy Scouts and other really activities. So how have you leveraged like your geek and shared it with people that wouldn't be exposed to it otherwise, as far as like things your kids are interested in? Or
yeah, a couple things. What I've usually done with my boys is they'll come up with an idea, and as soon as they can put it to paper, we'll try to plus it. And I try to approach it like almost like a Disney Imagineer, where like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Have you thought about this? And see if I can get them to put either a circuit board into it, or if there's something that we could learn to model in Fusion 360. At this point, we've gotten to the point where they're getting somewhat comfortable with Illustrator and using vector graphics to do 2D cutouts out of the workshop. But other than that, they're also gotten really good at taking a pattern, gluing it to a piece of wood, and most of my boys are checked out on the scroll saw, and so they'll make stuff when there's free time out there. We love Halloween and really like to do Halloween costumes. So a lot of our effort in the fall, August, well, who are we kidding? We really don't start it until October.
Yeah.
But the ideas are there over the summer. We'll try to put something together each year. A few years we've done group costumes. I think my favorite was we all went as characters from Gravity Falls, one of our favorite family shows. And then anytime after that, it's been whatever the sci-fi du jour is of the time. Heavy on the Star Wars for sure.
Like the Death Star costume that you made, that thing was awesome.
That was one of my twins, Linus. That all came out of his brain. The only plus that I really added to it is I have been playing around with this LED neon rope. Let's make laser beams. And he's like, yes. So that was a win for making at the family level.
Is it the LED rope that's like a consistent color and not like light space, that kind of stuff?
Exactly. Yeah, that was where I've played around with that over the summer and this fall was the neon equivalent of LED light strings. And that's been fun. We finally figured out how to open it up just enough to get to the solder contacts and make everything the right size. Before that, anytime we played with it, it was let's do the whole rope and then tuck the rest of it underneath the project, because I didn't realize it was that easy to break it apart.
Are the LEDs in that LED rope addressable, or are they simply on or off?
Some of them are. Like you can get NeoPixel style LED rope today from like Adafruit. And that's a fun one. I've got that as a back burner item to use some of that one to have some tracing animation LED. But everything I've done so far was it's 12 volts, apply your 2 wires to the flexible circuit board, and on comes the lights.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I had a childhood that was filled with Boy Scouts up until a certain point, and I definitely want to get my son into it. And I'm probably behind the Cub Scout train because COVID disrupted a lot of that planning that I wanted to do. But I've kind of looked at some of the offerings as far as merit badges and stuff that are more digital fabrication related and more techie kind of stuff that didn't exist when I was a kid. So do you have any experience in doing any of those with your kids? Do they have any three? I kind of know the answers to these, but I just want to visualize them or verbalize them. 3D printing, merit badge. Is there 3D modeling, geocaching? How modernized is the offering for what they're what can I look forward to basically when my son is a teenager, when I can jump in and finally show the things that I like to show off, or teach him?
I think you can find a merit badge that you would qualify just by bringing any of the scouts into your workshop and say, here's the soldering iron, spend 5 minutes on it, and here is your merit badge. More to it than that. Sure. I actually do the merit badge counseling for electronics for the troops in our area, and we teach them about Ohm's law and the relationship between voltage resistance and current. Give them some insight on that, and then we finish it off with a soldering project so they can have their own blinky something or other. It depends on what the troop wants to build. But yeah, so there is electronics there. There's computer programming. What also seems to be real common in our area is that the scout troops take on interest projects of their own. For example, the one my older boys belong to right now, they at one point had the world record for the largest soda water bottle rocket. It got off of a launch pad itself. It was about 20 feet tall, and it made it about 10 feet off the ground. And then another group from, I think, India stole the record. So there's currently about 350 2-liter soda bottles sitting in the Scoutmaster's garage. And one of these weekends, we're all going to go over there. We're going to hydrostatic test these water bottles, glue them together, and build another launch tower and try to go for the world record again. So there is definitely Steam elements available, especially if you bring it to the table, and that's actually probably my biggest part of scouting. Is it's what the scouts want to do, and more specifically, who they can get to volunteer their time to make that happen. It is definitely a volunteer organization, and that has been, and especially with COVID, has been our biggest struggle, is to get the volunteerism back up to where it really ought to be.
So has the way that Jamborees have been run, like since I was a kid, has that changed to like accommodate the tech side of things that they offer? Like, is there an equivalent like of a geek camp, but like instead of a summer camp where you're lashing and like canoeing and doing archery, they're like programming and soldering and like building robots? Is that like another track that they offer, or is that like something that they don't really touch at like Jamborees and scout camps and things like that?
So I've never been to any of the Jamboree or any of the national stuff yet, so
Gotcha.
I can't speak for it. I made it to the end of my Webelow year myself, and then my children are on track. One just achieved his Eagle rank, and then the other guys are on. Thank you. He just finished it this fall, just before his birthday, so we were really excited about that. And then my other are kind of on track to do the same.
Nice.
That is awesome. Because that is
Thank
something that I still put at the top of my like achievements or whatever on every resume I do. I'm like Eagle Scout.
Excellent. Yeah, I hope he takes it with him, and he's certainly proud from our perspective, but I hope he maintains that over time, because it really was a big effort and a big achievement that he worked really hard for.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It stays with you forever, and there's not a lot that you can say that about.
But no, to the question about the camps and jamborees, I think once they bring people into the great outdoors, they tend to focus there.
Sure.
So what I've seen from the brochures and from the videos is that they went and doubled and tripled down on the climbing walls and the mountain bike pump courses and the rappelling.
Survivalist
something.
stuff,
yeah. Well, not just survival, but like here's
outdoor activities.
Here's all of the adrenaline stuff that you could ever want to do as an adult. Let's get you some experience in it now.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if they've done skydiving yet, but that would be a merit badge I would try for.
I think scouts are invaluable, and I think that our generation, well, I can't speak for other areas, but at least where I am here in Southern California, it seems to have really kind of fallen out of fashion. And it was barely hanging on even when I was a kid, because I went through up until just starting what I guess they qualify as Boy Scouts, because it was like before like Cub Scouts, then into Boy Scouts. And then I fell out of it after that because it wasn't really supported. But I think that I'd love to see that kind of come back a little bit more, because I think it's extremely valuable, especially for younger generations right now. I'd love to see it come back for some more of those practical skills.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've still got some digging out of the hole that they've been in for years.
Some of the social stuff?
A lot of the social stuff, yeah. And not only philosophically, but they're subject of quite a bit of lawsuits right now that they are currently selling off big portions of the Scout properties nationwide just to be able to cover those losses. Yeah. So they are in bankruptcy right now. Hopefully there's a path to emerge from it.
Man, if they ever go away, I don't know what would take their place.
Something
4-H or something,
yeah. Maker Scouts.
There you go.
Ooh, founding members right here.
So what is your what do you think you're most recognized for in terms of the stuff that you make and share on social media?
That's a good question. I've been part of the community in the fanboy mode for so long. I make stuff that I like. I put a few videos out there just as feelers, but it's one of those ones where I'm not ambidextrous enough to film and make stuff at the same time. I know I could be if I practice more, but it's one of those ones where it becomes an afterthought of like, oh, I really should have had the camera on for that one. Darn it. So I need to get better at that. But I love taking pictures of the stuff when I'm all done. And of those, the ones that kind of got the most social media juice was that Maker Bear sculpture that I did. I did the TARDIS fridge back in 2013.
That thing's really cool.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun putting that together. My wife introduced me to Doctor Who after we started having kids, and late nights of diaper changes and nursing. You got used to everything that was on BBC America, and so Top Gear and Doctor Who were our best friends for those years where we couldn't remember our own names. So once we moved into the larger house and we had the previous owners left behind a fridge, we took our plain white vanilla one and I turned it into a full-blown TARDIS that's colder on the inside.
So is your wife like the bigger geek than you are, or?
She's huge sci-fi nerd. I was reading nonfiction stuff mostly when we met, and she turned me back on to she likes fantasy a lot. And I end up being more focused on future sci-fi and more specifically future absurd. She introduced me to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and that was mind-opening for me. And so everything having to do with that, maybe a little bit of John Scalzi, where he makes fun of what humans are capable of and yet still do the same stupid stuff. And that's kind of my favorite storyline. It's just watching how humans behave like humans, even in the future.
So have you seen, since you were talking about BBC, have you seen all of the different adaptations of like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and what's the detective one? Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul is book 2, but what's book Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency?
Oh, no, I have not gotten down that rabbit hole just yet, but it does look fascinating.
Because you're talking about like late nights of BBC programming. That is a good rabbit hole to go down if you're ever interested.
Dirk Gently, it's going on that same list I was writing on earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, write it down. So what kinds of things do you recommend for other people? Since we're kind of talking about it, when you talk about your likes and your interests and things like that, what do you recommend for other people who may not have the similar likes and interests and whatnot?
Find out which side of the fence they're on, whether they're Trekkers or Star Warsy first and foremost, and then kind of work my way outwards from there. But yeah, if they ask me about sci-fi, it tends to be, well, do you enjoy sitting down to a good book, and can you devote yourself to at least a trilogy? And if you can, here's Old Man's War. It's still, I think, one of my all-time favorites from John Scalzi. And that ends up being a high on my recommendation list every time someone's asking, what do you want to get into? If they're just looking for something that's on the, potential real horizon, I won't hesitate to say, if you haven't checked out Andy Weir yet, check that out. That's 2030s and beyond, and some of it's possible at this point still.
Potatoes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like potatoes.
The potatoes.
Do you find most of your inspiration from stuff like that, or mainly from just pop culture?
I live in the present more often than not. So if I saw it on TV and I thought it was pretty darn cool, I will try to make something of it. But even if it's just a laser cut ornament, I will try to recreate it. So I've got a bit of whatever the pop culture was at the time that comes out on our Christmas tree each year to kind of remind us of just how old we've gotten. We have the Christmas tree that we have more ornaments than we ever could fit on one tree. So we may be annexing it sometime in the near future.
That's cool. So your ornaments are almost like a record of time then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's the sentimental stuff that the kids made at school that gets top billing. But anything where if there's a place on the tree, we pull out, here's the TARDIS that we made in 2015, or I like in terms of lights, neon signs and backlit stuff and scrolling LEDs. So I have one behind me. I know that the video right now has me kind of blocked out, but I've got an LED scroller that is programmable and a lot of fun. I actually made something very similar to that one on the tree. So that comes out every year and gets a nice spot on the tree that it just scrolls a message of, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from the Osteen family. But it's one of those ones where it's a conversation starter when we have new guests come over. I'm like, oh man, where'd you buy that? I'm like, oh no, that's all out of fruit, and I spent 3 days soldering this together. So this is all me, man.
Sit down, my friend.
Yeah.
So I noticed earlier that you had some quotes appearing on that too. Is
Yes.
that pulling from a local network, or is that pulling from a web somewhere?
It is a web API pull. So
Cool.
It's reaching out to Zen API. They return a JSON random quote feed, and I turn it
cool.
into text. Yeah.
But what you mentioned before too, like about somebody asking you, like, where'd you get that? And you being able to say, oh yeah, well, I made it. I didn't buy it anywhere. That is such a good feeling to have. I love it when that happens.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And for being the introvert and the person who doesn't like actually starting new conversations, if they start asking me about how something works or how to make that, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Grab a drink.
Strap in.
Strap in.
Wes turned the feed off, so we're able to see like your photo door and the little scrolling thing. I can't read what it's saying, but I'm trying. That's pretty cool.
Lao Tzu. So that was a very profound one, I'm sure.
And that is cool. It's cool that you're able to share that stuff too, and it's not just. It's cool to make things for yourself, but it's also really cool just to be able to like share those things with other people as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of my secret passions. Is I'd love to be able to teach more, and I have designs to do that as I, semi-retire. I'm working with our local library to help fit out their makerspace, and I'm going to teach some classes, including soldering and possibly 3D printing. So I want to teach more. I want to share more. Our country is struggling to fill technical roles, and it starts with us just making it interesting. And that's part of why I believe I'm looking at the comment thread right now. I know my wife is watching, but I think my boys tried to log on too because they know Making Geeks, and they like checking out you guys as well.
Awesome.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that is something I forgot to say about what I've been up to. Is I had a class in my shop for 2 days last week, and that was really cool. A bunch of boys came over. There was about 12 that showed up the first day, a little less the second day, but that's all right. And we talked about designing out vectors and things like that in Inkscape. They designed ornaments that we cut out in the laser cutter, and then we used the CNC machine to cut out door signs for them to take home and hang on their doors. And it was really cool. It went a lot better than my worries had thought it would go. So I really want to do that again.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Those are fun times. I mean, so the other thing I do, with Scouts is my boys are still young enough to be in the lower group, the Cub Scouts. And so part of that is an annual Pinewood Derby race. So that's, and I've, for the 10 years that I've been with this group, I've opened up my garage each spring for a couple of workshop days. And so we have all the kids funnel through. And it's actually really fun to watch the kids realizing that they can do this. And more importantly, it's really fun to watch kind of some of the parents touch these tools for the first time. And, they get used to it really quickly. They will guide their children through it. And I've had one injury in the 10 years that we've been running, and it was mine. So it all was good.
So do they do a Dadwood Derby as well?
We call it a crazy car class, where anybody who isn't one of the Scouts can build their own. So we have grandmas and grandpas. My wife, again, back to sci-fi, built her own TARDIS and raced it down the track. And that was fun to watch. But yeah, the dad class or the crazy car class is always fun to watch because typically we don't weigh them, and so everyone will pack it full of lead, and they just scream down the track.
The last one that I went to, I took 2 kits and glued them together and then carved out the Mystery Mobile that's still sitting on my shelf in my garage. The thing weighed a ton. I didn't even have to put lead in it or anything like that because it just because it was two bricks put together. That was fun. Yeah. Anybody that does Pinewood Derbies, I'm always like, do they do a Dadwood Derby? Because if they don't, you should, because it's fun. When you don't have any rules and you can stylistically make whatever. There's always the one guy that just like has a brick and puts the little air canister on it, goes psh, and it whoo, like just shoots down the track.
They pull the Mark Rober is what they do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But it is fun just to see the creativity that can come out when there isn't a limitation for like size or weight or anything like that. So that is cool.
Yeah. So my youngest boys, this is their last year doing that, and so we are coming to the end of that chapter with Pinewood Derby, and now I realize I've got to deliver on one of the other promises that I put out there a couple of years back, is that I'm going to build a whole display case, because with 4 boys. One or both parents participating in that crazy car class each year. We've got close to 30 cars. And so I've got to build like a Pinewood Derby wall. And we're still not quite sure how we're going to do it, but it's going to likely be a feature element in the house somewhere.
Make a video.
Yes.
Please make a video, because that would be so cool to see that process of putting all that together.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, some reason I had imaginings or envisioning like the the hamster tubes that used to be like the big thing back when we were growing up, like these ridiculous tube
and
monstrosities.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely need to build something through walls or some sort of feature like down the side of a staircase or something that you can like take one of those cars and like let it go throughout the house or something. That'd be really, really cool.
I'd have to create the elevator to bring it back up to the high ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So with all the cool stuff that you've made, do you have a dream project that you would like to work on?
2. One is electronics and one is purely woodworking. So one of those things that I don't do enough YouTube videos as I would like to, but this is one of those ones where I came up with the idea. I have storyboarded the whole thing. So I know even what the thumbnail is going to look like once I actually post it up to YouTube. But the programming part of it brought me to an absolute halt, and that was because what I was trying to do was make the mother of all mute buttons for Zoom, Skype, Teams sessions, and it's one of those ones where you can create those external mute buttons using keystroke generators. Any of the microelectronics, microcontrollers often will allow you to pretend to be a USB device, and so you can fake out the operating system into thinking that somebody's typing in the shortcut keys, and so that's the easy way to create an external mute button. But I was trying to take it one level further, where the button itself interacted with the operating system, so it would change colors when it was muted and when it wasn't. And all of the ones that you see today, they're faking it in that they've got just a toggle value that says whether it's red or green. But if it falls out of sync with the operating system, it doesn't really tell you whether it's muted or not. So I was trying to this is one of those rabbit hole things where I dove deep into the USB protocols, trying to understand how
sort of bidirectional something.
Yeah, how human interface device protocols worked, and setting up a value for the operating system to tell the mute button whether it should be red or green. And it was going to be sci-fi related, because what better way to get Google or YouTube click views than to call it the MF mute button. And so in order to do that, it would be the MF mute button based off of the Millennium Falcon. So it would be a big old, awesome, almost like a no whammies, hit the mute button when you really need to not be heard. And it would be the Millennium Falcon turning red or green, depending on whether it was the mic was on or not. The other thing that I want to do, and it's completely woodworking, but it's been the pipe dream for about 5 years, is I want to build my own cedar strip canoe. This goes back to the Nick Offerman, Jimmy DiResta times, where they built one for Bear Mountain Boats. I own that DVD. My wife lets me call it, wood porn, because it kind of is. And I want to do that someday. So there's the idea that we'll set up something in the backyard with a canopy, and I'll spend 6 months building a cedar strip canoe. So that's the long-term pipe dream.
That sounds so relaxing.
Yeah.
To focus on just something like that. Yeah. 2 really cool projects there.
Thank you. I hope to actually execute on both of them. I promised myself, I put it in writing and on one of those, personal social contracts that says, by the time my youngest kid is in high school, I will have a wooden canoe. And the other one is, well, I've set it online now, so I think I actually have to deliver on it. So I think I need to make an MF mute button.
It'd be kind of cool to sell it as a kit too, like after the fact.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. So speaking of other things that are fun, what are you guys geeking out about this week?
Most of my stuff is Marvel.
Go for it.
Hawkeye is amazing. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I have.
It's one of the best.
Oh, man. It's several episodes. Yeah, it's several episodes away now, so it's not really spoilery. But there was a scene where he's on the phone with his kid, and he can't hear because of his ear damage from all of his Avengers antics, because he's a normal person with no superpowers. Like, I love how they leaned into that aspect of his character, where like they took the thing that most people gave Hawkeye crap about, is that he's just a normal person. How can he possibly be a superhero? But instead of having that as a negative, they spun it in like this really cool, like relatable way that I didn't really expect them to lean that hard into, which I'm glad they are, because they're doing a great job of like character development and actually showing like the emotion of not just him, but his family's reactions, and how like all the repercussions of his decisions are, like, you know, how they're following through with all that stuff. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, they're pulling on the dad heartstrings hard.
I was going to say the
I'm
same thing. Yeah, it's I think the dad thing makes it so much more relatable than almost any other character. I think it's really cool.
Concur.
Are you going to say the other one? You could say the other one.
Oh, what, the Minecraft Caves and Cliffs update? Yeah, that came out a little while ago, and I'm really enjoying that.
Oh my gosh.
What?
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, it's only partially a Marvel though, right? Because isn't it shared?
That's true, yeah. No, the other one is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse that Donovan is referencing. The trailer for that came out, and at the beginning when they're like, meanwhile, in another universe, like they're referencing like the No Way Home stuff a little bit with it, and it's just all things Spider-Man. Everything's coming up Spider-Man, and I love it.
If you're a Spider-Man fan, you are really being spoiled over the next, 3 or 4 years at least.
Yep.
There's like 5 projects in development.
Yeah, the original movie, Into the Spider-Verse, was probably my favorite Spider-Man movie that exists. And I didn't expect it to be. When I went in, I was like, oh, this looks fun. And I was like completely floored by it. It was just amazing. So, super excited.
Yeah. With the animation classes I teach, and when that movie came out, I showed part of the movie, but they'd already seen it. But I told them basically, I said, look, you guys have an even bigger challenge now, because this is the new bar for animation, and it's fantastic. Yep.
Go ahead, Donovan.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of new bars for animation.
Oh, Arcane.
You saw South Park too?
Yes.
Yeah, that episode was really good.
It's funny because, like, I think I'm known for being cynical when it comes to... There is no hesitation. Mm-hmm. I think I'm known for being a little bit cynical when it comes to movies, especially when it comes to Marvel and whatnot. Because nothing really impresses me anymore, because I've seen too many movies, and I'm like the guy in that M. Night Shyamalan Water one, where the movie critic... Lady in the Water, where the movie critic is like, I've seen all the movies, like I could tell what's going to happen, but yeah, I'm like that guy. That said, Arcane, I had absolutely no interest in watching that movie. I played League of Legends in the past, didn't really like it because I just got my butt kicked all the time. Wasn't enjoyable. And every now and then I'll see a cinematic or something that they post on YouTube, which are really cool, but never had any interest in delving back into it. For some odd reason, the other day, I opened up Netflix, and Arcane was my top suggestion, like it has been for the past like 3 weeks or whatever. I'm like, you know what, fine, I'll watch the first episode. I turned on the first episode,
Hooked.
And I did not stop until I finished the whole series. I have never been so impressed and so blown away and so taken back at everything in that show. It is a masterpiece of storytelling, of visual storytelling, of character development, of animation. And I'm a sucker for animation. So, oh my gosh, just everything in that show was so well done and so well executed. I am geeking out about it so hard. And now that I've like binged through season 1, I'm going back and doing it again. They've announced season 2, and I'm just like, what this, like, it's, things are going to change because of this show, because of how well they did everything in it. And if you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor. It is incredible. With a caveat, okay, there is a caveat. It is not a kid's show whatsoever. It delves into things like poverty, drug use, abuse, trauma, mental disorders, like all that kind of stuff. Very heavy. It is very heavy content. And a lot of the character development is around those very heavy subject matter. But that said, everything about it was so well done. The pacing is fantastic. The animation is beyond incredible. You can freeze any moment in that show and it's a work of art. It is just, and I could spend a whole episode just talking about the show, because episode 9, just that one episode, is the greatest piece of cinema I have seen in a long time. It is incredible. So if you haven't seen it, go watch Arcane. If you want to talk about it, you can find me at Once Upon a Workbench. Getting a little ahead of myself, but that is what I'm geeking out about.
So I only saw the first episode, but I'll say that the opening shot for the first episode is one of the most beautiful shots and sequences I've ever seen. And for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, if just like a small indication of why and how it looks so good. Most of the time in a movie development, the concept art is some of the most beautiful things you'll ever see in the entire development of the movie. But they found a way to make the concept art move, and that's what it is, and it's animated. And they finally figured out how to do that. I mean, it's all 3D models, but it's wrapped what looks like in actual like gouache painting type stuff.
No, it's 2D mats. Like, it's integration of 2D and 3D. So everything is 2D matted, and then the characters are 3D and like elements and things like that.
I should have been more specific. The characters are 3D, but they've finally been textured and done in a way that they look like a moving painting as opposed to an obvious 3D model. So I'll have to watch the rest. I've only seen the first episode, but yeah.
Fascinating.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm geeking out about a couple things, but I'll make it kind of quick. I mentioned earlier in the episode that I've been doing a lot of resin printing, so that's one of the things that I'm definitely geeking out about, and I want to kind of delve more into it and kind of learn more about kind of like the limitations of what I should use resin printing for and what I probably shouldn't use resin printing for. So you're going to probably hear me mention that quite a bit in the next couple of episodes too. I started watching a show on, I think it's on Amazon Prime right now, called Miracle Workers. It's not a new show. I think it originally aired on TBS, and I'm really liking it. I think it's really funny, but depending on your personal beliefs, it could possibly come off as blasphemous too. I guess the basis for the show is that heaven is a corporation. So there are different departments within heaven. God is played by Steve Buscemi.
Buscemi, yeah. Yes.
Daniel Radcliffe works in a department where they basically answer prayers, and they're trying to answer prayers and do things work. And there's a PR department, and there's press and stuff. It's really funny. But like I said, it may not be for everybody depending on your own personal beliefs. But I think it has a good heart to it as well. But it's funny.
Don't they change up like the setting and the time period for every season, but it's still the same characters?
I'm only about 4 episodes into the first season, so I can't comment beyond that. Oh, okay. I'm liking it so far.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the last thing I'm geeking out about is I finally got like the flight controls for Microsoft Flight Simulator, so I get to delve down deeper into that whole too. So, okay, I'm done. Sean, how about you?
I've got two things. One is I really follow the electric car industry, specifically the electrification of transportation vehicles. It's kind of a passion of mine. But what I really saw today that was geeking out about was a gentleman in British Columbia. He goes by, his name is Chase Barber. But he's created a company called Edison Motors. The website is edisonmotors.ca. And his tagline literally is stealing Tesla's idea. He is taking old like logging trucks that they look vintage, and he's electrifying them, and is planning to make a business out of it. And he's doing it in a way, at least his social media campaign seems to be in the style of Letterkenny. If you've watched that show on Amazon Prime, I think is where it's, or Hulu, I think is where I've been watching it. Small town up in Canada where people are, simply spoken, but they are all too happy to stick it to the man. And so this engineer, and he and his team look like they're actually pretty smart dudes, plan to electrify these semi-tractor trailers and do it in such a way that they can steal some of Tesla's market share. But the fact that they are making their announcements and doing all of their PR about it in the style of Letterkenny, I found absolutely fascinating, because I think Elon Musk would be all too happy to be taken down. I would be all too happy to have him taken down a peg or two. And these guys seem like the ones who could possibly do it.
I mean, his haircut already kind of did that. But yeah.
That haircut was something else.
Yeah, as far as like the electric vehicle thing, as soon as we can figure out how to lower the cost of doing present car conversion, I think that's really when it can take off. So hopefully it kind of sounds like that's a little bit of the path that they're taking, right? By retrofitting like the older trucks and stuff.
That's what that team is doing. Yeah, they're not trying to do a full like the Tesla truck. They're taking old chassis and electrifying them, and basically going even the model of diesel electric, like you would see locomotives do.
Oh, cool.
So they're trying to utilize that technology to use diesel as efficiently as possible and introduce the high torque and the energy recapture as these trucks go downhill too. The other thing that I'm geeking out about is watching Colin Furz's series on building a tunnel between his bunker, his workshop, and his house. Something that I could totally relate to, and if I had that budget and an understanding enough spouse, honey, to build such a tunnel. But in this episode that he just released today, he's now put a Minecraft track down into his tunnel and made a big deal out of that one. And so I was geeking out about him rolling through his underground tunnel in what looked like something that belongs in the new 1.18 release.
I just saw that one today, and yeah, it's really fun.
That's very cool.
Speaking of really cool people, I'd like to thank our patrons, including you, Sean. Thanks for being a patron. Mm-hmm. Over at patreon.com/makinggeeks, including Dan, who is a new patron as of yesterday or 2 days ago. Thank you for your patronage. And also our top patrons, Jordan, Square Splinter, and Clinton. You guys are awesome. Thank you all so much for your support.
And we'd like to hear from all of you, and you could do so by contacting us directly on our contact page on makinggeeks.com. We're looking for anything you want to suggest for the show, topic ideas, any kind of commentary about the episodes. We'd love to hear it. And on the homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes and listen to all of our fabulous guests like ours today. And don't forget that we have a shop with some Making Geeks themed merchandise for you to check out, all on makinggeeks.com.
And you can reach us individually, like I said before, getting a little ahead of myself. Sean, as our special guest, if they want to get a hold of you, what platforms are you on?
I'm on all the media platforms that I think they're saying was anybody over 30 knows about already. So I'm known there as TinkeringRocks.
So ICQ, I got it. Cool.
Yeah, plenty. Yeah.
I didn't ask about the origin of that name. Why TinkeringRocks?
That's a good question. So I've always liked the term tinker, as somebody who's out in the shop just kind of messing around with whatever they have on hand. But I also really enjoyed a podcast in my early days of software development called .NET Rocks, and it was a podcast where they were basically proselytizing the Microsoft stack, but they introduced it in such a way that it was entertaining, and the rocks part always caught my attention. So I was able to make a logo that combined America's Got Talent ears with a crescent wrench, and it's been like that ever since.
It's a good logo.
Yeah. So if you want to find Sean, you can find him on that. If you want to find the other Sean, you can find him at Geek Builders. Wes can be found at Geek Smithing, and I can be found at Once Upon a Workbench.
And you can find new episodes of the podcast every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. I'd like to thank everybody in the live chat for participating in the show. It's always kind of cool seeing the scrolling feed of the conversation happening there. And I'd also like to thank our special guest, Sean. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, buddy.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
And so from all of us to all of you,